Since 2015, Jared Stillman has rocked Nashville sports.
That team freaking stinks.
And now he's back. The takes are hotter than ever.
I mean, let's be honest, he just can't coach.
Welcome to Stillman and Company.
Stillman and Company, presented by Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical on the 440 Sports Network, part of the Believe YouTube podcast network as well. So today we have a breaking news trade. The Tennessee Titans this morning have traded defensive tackle T'Vondre Sweat to the New York Jets for defensive end Jermaine Johnson II. Now, I'll have a full reaction, including a grade that I think I feel comfortable giving the Titans. First, though, let's get people in here on the stream, and let's talk about Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical. They are the presenting sponsor of every program that I do. And Hiller, they've been in business since 1990. Their family-owned and operated, 100% satisfaction. If happy, you'll be the service is free. I know that because I use Hiller at my home. I love Hiller. They take great care of my home. They can do the same for you. Learn more at happyhiller.com. With professional, experienced, trustworthy technicians that come into your home and leave it clean and better than they found it. Care is their core value. They believe that when they care about others, everybody wins, and that's why they take care of the customer on every job, every time. That's Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical, proud supporters of the Preds, the Vols, and Vandy. That's Hiller. Call the Happy Face Truck today. Okay, so again, the news today, the Tennessee Titans, a straight one-for-one, player-for-player trade. They are trading T'Vondre Sweat to the New York Jets in exchange for Jermaine Johnson II. So there is the money that I do think I want to throw out there. Sweat, I think, was due $1.6 million in cash this year. Jermaine Johnson, $13.4. So it's basically $12 million-ish for Jermaine Johnson as opposed to T'Vondre Sweat. That doesn't really bother me, but those are the specifics. Now, as far as Johnson is concerned, we all know about T'Vondre Sweat. As far as Jermaine Johnson's concerned, Jermaine Johnson was a Pro Bowler in 2023. And in 2023, he had 7.5 sacks, and he had 16 quarterback hits. Now, I don't know if he was a regular Pro Bowler or if he was named to the Pro Bowl on the 18th ballot type Pro Bowler, but he was a Pro Bowler. He played in 2 games in 2024. In fact, if I remember correctly, Jermaine Johnson was absolutely lighting PT up in that Titans-Jets game where PT set all those records for most hurries allowed. I believe he was lighting his ass up and then suffered a torn Achilles and missed the rest of the year. Last year, Jermaine Johnson played in 14 games, 13 starts. He had 3 sacks. So it was a drop-off compared to the Jermaine Johnson who was a Pro Bowler in 2023. Also, as far as Jermaine Johnson was concerned, last year he had 35 pressures, according to PFF, compared to 56 pressures in 2023. And again, the sacks were roughly in half. So, my reaction to the trade, and I just want everybody to know this will be a little short emergency reaction, and then we'll still have our full show today at 2 o'clock. And as this guy says, hit the like button, everybody. Like and subscribe. So keep getting in there, keep dropping in there. Okay. My reaction to this, I think this is a good move. I think the Titans have rid themselves of the mistake that they made on draft night 2 years ago when they overdrafted T'Vondre Sweat with the 38th pick in the draft. And Ran Carthon and Brian Callahan seemed absolutely hell-bent on proving to everybody that a run-stuffing nose tackle is worth the 38th pick in the draft when almost nobody else believed it. The Rams supposedly tried to get up. Now, I didn't see them offer the deal to the Titans that they ended up going with the Panthers at 39, but the Titans should have traded out of that pick, and they should have gotten more assets instead of, again, a run-stuffing DT. So I think the Titans made a mistake 2 years ago in drafting T'Vondre Sweat. I vocalized that I felt like the Titans made a mistake with T'Vondre Sweat, and I think today they somewhat corrected that mistake. Mike Borgonzi did what I believe Ran Carthon didn't do in his second year as general manager. What do I mean by that? So when it came to the right tackle position in 2024, again, that goes back to Nicholas Petit-Frere, Jalen Duncan, everybody they tried out there, John Ojukwu. I mean, they tried everybody at right tackle that year. And I remember at the combine, Brian Callahan said to Caroline, we think that PT and Jalen Duncan have some traits that we can work with. And I thought to myself, what? No. And then it came out with PT that, hey, you know what? He's actually kind of fat, lazy, stupid. He doesn't care about football, all of those things. And I couldn't believe that Ran Carthon, Chad Brinker, who were there the year before with Mike Vrabel, didn't turn to Brian Callahan and say, no. I know Dad thinks Bill Callahan thinks that he can make PT this great player, but no, you don't want to trust this guy. I believe as much as scheme fit will get brought up as to why T'Vondre Sweat is not a Tennessee Titan anymore, I think if T'Vondre Sweat was reliable, if T'Vondre Sweat was someone that they could have expected to lose weight, if T'Vondre Sweat would have been able to adapt, I think the Titans would have kept T'Vondre Sweat because there is talent in T'Vondre Sweat. Even though he is a 3-4 nose tackle and the Titans are essentially going to a 4-3, there's still room on the roster for a guy like that. You're still going to have a 3rd down and 4. You're still going to have a goal line scenario where you want that big boy in there. But I think Mike Borgonzi last year saw with T'Vondre Sweat, I can't rely on this guy. So instead of trying to tell Robert Saleh, hey, I think we can rely on this guy, let's try to fit a square peg into a round hole, he basically probably told Saleh, not only does he not really fit what we're trying to do, but he's also fat, lazy, and stupid, and it's just not going to work out. And so I believe they decided, hey, Sweat, and it's not just a scheme thing. Everyone's going to make this up to be about scheme. I remember the Tennessee Titans running a 4-3 with Jim Schwartz as the defensive coordinator and Greg Williams as the defensive coordinator and Jim Washburn as the defensive line coach. And they had a big old fat defensive tackle named Henry Ford. And he wasn't a superstar in that defense, but he had a role. And he was as big and as fat as T'Vondre Sweat. So it's doable. It just, I don't think they ever thought they were going to get that out of Sweat. And so instead of hoping and praying that something will change, the Titans decided, let's cut bait. Now to Johnson. What I have heard out of New York, because as soon as this trade went down, I had all the people that I work with at Mad Dog Radio at SiriusXM, and they're all in New York. I had everybody reaching out to me saying, hey, what do we know about T'Vondre Sweat? What do we think of this trade? And I was like, I think T'Vondre Sweat is a solid run-stuffing DT, and at the same time, he's lazy, fat, and stupid. And my friends in New York were like, oh, lazy, fat, and stupid. That right there is the hallmark of the Jets, which I got a kick out of. When I asked them about Jermaine Johnson, they said Jermaine Johnson in 2023 was a huge reason that the Jets defense was elite. And that when Jermaine Johnson got hurt in 2024, the defense fell significantly because of that injury, that his loss was that massive. I had somebody say to me, you know what? When it comes to Jermaine Johnson, he's a tireless worker, and Robert Saleh absolutely loves him. And I'm like, tireless worker. Again, we're comparing this with T'Vondre Sweat. And the reputation that T'Vondre Sweat has is that T'Vondre Sweat is not a tireless worker. And so when it comes to the trade the Titans have made, I think this is a great trade for the Titans. And here's where I'll look at the Johnson front. Because when I put out the free agent board, when it came to pass rusher, and this is before we get into the draft with Bailey and Reese and Bain, and I think the Titans will have their choice of 2 of those 3 players. It looks like Arvell Reese probably goes number 2 to the Jets, and that may be a reason why they made this trade. But when it came to this decision of, okay, going out and getting a free agent edge rusher, I have argued that the Titans need to go out and get 2 free agent edge rushers. I think they need to get 2 free agent edge rushers, and they need to get at least 1 receiver in free agency. And the guys I've been banging the drum for are Trey Hendrickson and DJ Moore, and I would pay top dollar to get in Trey Hendrickson. But then I said, once you sign Trey Hendrickson, then I think you have to sign a second guy at about $10 million a year-ish. And when it comes to those guys, instead of picking one guy and saying, okay, I'm going to pay $10 million to this guy, that guy may get 13, that guy may get 18, that guy may be loved by somebody else. But it was a cluster of guys on the free agent board that I said, you know what, that can be your second edge. You pay the big money to Trey Hendrickson, you overpay for him. And then there's Draymond Jones, who was here last year. There's Kayvon Chason, there's Kwity Paye, there's those guys, and each of them has something kind of against them. Well, Jermaine Johnson has against him the fact that he's coming off of a torn Achilles in 2024. But he did play in 2025. And so it's not like he didn't prove that he couldn't come back from the Achilles. It's not like he tore the Achilles yesterday and we're expecting him to come back this season. No, he's already proven that he can come back. Now, he didn't perform at the high level that he performed at before the Achilles tear, but you traded away T'Vondre Sweat, just a used piece, in order to make that deal. You didn't trade away a second-round pick. So, to me, I understand the risk. All of these guys came with risks. And with Draymond Jones or with Kwity Paye or with whomever on that second-tier edge front, you would have been competing with all the other teams that may have wanted him. With this, Jermaine Johnson was under contract with the Jets, and I don't know how many people would have been jumping up and down right away to pay $13 million to him, but I'm okay with it because the money that I had budgeted for all these other guys was roughly about the same. According to the free agent board, Draymond Jones, what did I have budgeted for him? $13 million guaranteed. I had the expectation of 2 years, $20 million, so you'll pay a little more for Jermaine Johnson. But again, $13 million guaranteed. That's the same amount of money. Kayvon Chason, PFF thinks he's going to get 3 years, $45 million with $30 million guaranteed. I don't really like Kayvon Chason, but if I had to go with Kayvon Chason, then I would say, you know what? $14 million. I can do that, guaranteed for Kayvon Chason. Well, now I'm going to go with $13 million here for Jermaine Johnson. Kwity Paye. And Kwity Paye last year had a terrible PFF grade. And Kwity Paye, who played under Gus Bradley in Indianapolis and had some solid seasons there, but certainly nothing like Jermaine Johnson's 2023 season. Kwity Paye I put in there for 2 years, $20 million, $13 million guaranteed. So the money for Jermaine Johnson is roughly what I was anticipating on spending on the second edge. And again, you didn't give up a real draft pick or a real asset in order to get Jermaine Johnson. So I got to say, if I have to give this trade a grade, I give it an A. I think this was a great trade by Mike Borgonzi. And I think this shows you Mike Borgonzi and Robert Saleh working together and really, I think, bringing out the best in what those two can offer each other. Because I believe when it came to Sweat, no, he was not a scheme fit for Saleh. But if he was reliable, if he was a guy they thought could lose some weight, if they thought he could play defensive tackle in this scheme next to Simmons, if they thought, then I think they would have kept him. They would have tried to make it work for $1 million. But Mike Borgonzi's been around T'Vondre Sweat for a year, and Mike Borgonzi has said, nope, he's not going to do it. He's not going to change. He's not going to start eating right. He's not going to focus in on his weight. He's not going to train hard. He's just going to sit there and eat donuts and slam whole milk and then go tackle the guy from the nose tackle position. That's what he's going to do. And then when they went over all these free agent edge rushers and they were going through their board, I'm sure Robert Saleh said, hey, one guy I really, really liked with the Jets was Jermaine Johnson. That was a culture setter. That was a guy who showed up to work every day. That was a guy. Again, this trade to me has the full Robert Saleh endorsement, even though Robert Saleh hasn't said anything about Jermaine Johnson, because I don't think the Titans would have jumped to make this move if Robert Saleh didn't want it made. And this guy's performed at a very, very high level under Saleh. Again, he played last season coming off of the injury, so I don't think we would expect him to go out there and tear his Achilles again or wonder if he won't ever be able to recover. I think this is an A trade for the Titans. I really do. I think this is a great move. And I don't know if Jermaine Johnson will round into form or not. But For T'Vondre Sweat, if you get what you got out of Jermaine Johnson last season, which is a 61 run grade, a 61 defensive grade with 35 pressures and 3 sacks, which is not great. But if that's what you get out of Jermaine Johnson at the edge position, that's probably better than anything you would have gotten out of T'Vondre Sweat at the nose tackle position. And if you get, again, a year after the year he came back from the injury, if you get the 2023 Jermaine Johnson, which I'm not banking on, but if you get the 2023 Jermaine Johnson, you're looking at a guy that had an 83 PFF grade. Last year, Trey Hendrickson had an 82.9. So 83 is elite when it comes to PFF. Odafe Owe had a 75.5. 9 sacks, 56 pressures, according to PFF for Jermaine Johnson. If that's what you get, it's a grand slam. I think this is an A trade. I think this is, again, it replaces going out into the free agent market and signing Draymond Jones or signing Kwity Paye or signing a second-tier edge rusher. It's a sure cost $13 million. Again, all these guys, they would have looked for multi-year deals. K'Lavon Chaisson would have looked for a multi-year deal coming off the season he had in New England. And so, again, I look at this and I think this is a great trade. They killed one bird of needing that second-tier edge rusher to go with what I hope is Trey Hendrickson as a first-tier edge rusher, and I still wouldn't not draft a Bailey or a Bain or a Reese because I have those guys. I mean, I want to load up as far as edge rushers and guys going after the quarterback are concerned, but it's not a big financial commitment. You got rid of a piece you didn't want. It was a mistake made by the incompetent general manager and the incompetent head coach that you had in 2024. And so now the Sweat distraction is done. He's gone. It's off the books. He's the Jets' problem now. And Jermaine Johnson, I think it's a little bit of a reclamation project. I think it's a little of a Robert Saleh knows what he's getting. And I also think it shows that Mike Borgonzi is willing to really hear Saleh out on the things that Saleh knows. And in this case, there probably was a discussion about, do we go after Kwity Paye in free agency, or would we rather have Jermaine Johnson? And I've said, when it comes to the 4th pick, if I'm the general manager and I am adamant about who I want to take with that 4th overall pick, and I'm sitting there and I'm saying, oh, I got to have this guy, or I'm saying I got to have that guy, and Robert Saleh is like, oh, I don't know if I don't give a shit. I'm taking who I want. You know, it reminds me of Elway saying that he wanted to take Josh Allen at 4 and 18, but Vance Joseph and the coaching staff talked him out of it. That would not happen to me. If I had a conviction about a guy, I'm taking him. But other things, I'm fine with saying, hey, Robert, I value what you think. And it seems to me like in this case, Mike Borgonzi clearly values what Robert Saleh thinks. And Mike Borgonzi was able to see with his own 2 eyes how lazy and fat T'Vondre Sweat was and that this was a lost cause. So I absolutely love this move today, just in a vacuum of this move itself. I give it an A. Now, TDG hits on something that I am worried about. TDG says this was the free agent acquisition, Jared. No other pass rusher is coming. Better not be. Better not be. Like, I say 2 edge rushers. Now, you got 1. So another edge rusher, and I want Trey Hendrickson. And then if you're on the clock at 4 and you didn't think Arvell Reese was going to be there, and Arvell Reese is there, take him. I'm fine with that. But, I mean, I am spending heavily at the edge position. Edge, receiver, tackle, quarterback. That's what matters to me. All the other positions, we'll figure that out. We are not going to figure it out at tackle. We can figure it out at guard. And this guy says draft one at 4. Draft one and sign another one. TDG says Jeremiah Love is the pick. Well, if Jeremiah Love's the pick, then you better go sign Trey Hendrickson. One person says you can never have enough pass rushers. Agreed. Joe says, what are they going to do at center? He also asks, would you overpay for Tyler Linderbaum? 2:00 today. We will be on the air with our normal show, and we will address the Cushenberry thing. Although I was surprised yesterday, everybody was like, Cushenberry, I'm shocked. I'm like, you wouldn't be shocked if you listened to this show, because we've been talking about cutting Cushenberry. Cushenberry sucks. The thing about Cushenberry is when he would get hurt, Daniel Brunskill and Corey Levin would go in, and they would play just as good as he did. So he stinks. One guy says, good old Titans back at it again. Why did we ever fire J-Rob and the great Mike Vrabel? You know what this move also kind of reminds me of? The Jermaine Johnson pickup. It kind of reminds me of Mike Vrabel last year overpaying for Harold Landry because he thought Harold Landry was important, as for what they were trying to build there. And it seems to me like Robert Saleh thinks that Jermaine Johnson is important as far as the Titans are concerned. Aaron says, let's trade for a guy who is still recovering from a torn Achilles. The Titans are going to tighten. Again, the question is, what are you trading? It is not as if the Titans traded a top 100 pick for Jermaine Johnson. They didn't even trade any pick for Jermaine Johnson. They traded T'Vondre Sweat, a lazy, fat, run-stuffing DT who can't play on third down, can't play in passing situations, can't play in the 2-minute drill when games are really decided, and who did not fit what this coach was going to do. They dumped T'Vondre Sweat. And for the Jets, this absolutely was a salary dump. They probably are going to draft Arvell Reese at number 2. So instead of paying $13 million to Jermaine Johnson, they now get a run-stuffing DT, which does fit Aaron Glenn's defense. If you remember, DJ Reader was at the Lions, and he was a big, fat run-stuffing DT. So this trade does make sense for the Jets. I don't follow the Jets, so I can't tell you about all the things they do, but I think this move makes sense for the Jets too. But I think this is, unless you actually care about the $12 million difference between the two players, I think this move is a really, really good move. Cedric said, I had my notifications on, but I was already on the lookout for this show. Again, I'm an emergency breaking news kind of guy. I had a talk with Braden about this last week, and I was like, when free agency starts, what do I do? Like, do I just wait until 2:00 every day, or do I just go on? What do I do? And, I think I decided, like, hey, I'm a breaking news guy. Now, look, when they cut Lloyd Cushenberry, I'm not going live. Yeah, that is not it's when it's a big deal. And I think this is a big deal. TDG says, I agree on the scheme fit, but we are getting a guy who is basically a one-year rental and have to cover $12 million of a salary, and he's injured, so not so sure. Well, again, Jermaine Johnson was injured 2 years ago, if I'm not mistaken. He wasn't injured at the end of last season. It wasn't like he tore his Achilles again, right? Again, I'm not the biggest Jermaine Johnson expert. Everybody that I know that's a Jets fan, it's serious, that I work with, is basically like, oh, yeah, he's a hard worker. Saleh loves him. He was great in 23 when the defense was legit. I mean, he started in the last game of the year, so he's not coming off of a serious injury. He's not injured. He was injured 2 years ago. So that doesn't bother me. Rob says, same injury as Cushenberry. And if Cushenberry was good and productive, I would have argued that they should have kept him. But the problem when it comes to Cushenberry is that Cushenberry's no good. Cushenberry sucked, okay? Like, when he would get hurt and Daniel Brunskill, who was a $2 million street free agent, would go into the game, Daniel Brunskill was just as good as Lloyd Cushenberry. Lloyd Cushenberry was not good. The guy I wanted, Tyler Biadasz, that was the guy I wanted. He tore it in 2024 and did play last year, but you could tell he wasn't the same. Achilles tears take forever to recover from, even with professional athlete-level doctors are working on it. Let me say this. If he was the same player he was in 2023, the Jets wouldn't trade him. Instead, the Jets traded him to you for a bag of chips. There's a reason why, but it's okay. And I would just like to state for the record, when it comes to Jared Stillman hates everything the Titans do. Oh, you're never happy. Oh, you just hate them. You just go out of your way to hate them. Here I am telling you, I like this trade, and I give Mike Borgonzi an A for it. That's our emergency reaction. Again, T'Vondre Sweat out, Jermaine Johnson in, and of course, we'll be live with our Stillman and Company program, of course, at 2 today. Like and subscribe, tell your friends, and we'll see you later today.